a real estate agent will start to get some success in their real estate sales business. And then they try to, as soon as they get a little tiny bit taste of success, they start to get distracted with this whole multiple streams of income or passive income. And they say, okay, I made a little bit of money here selling houses, and I'm going to go and try to take this money and go try to create more streams of income. And what ends up happening almost every single time, I was just on a coaching call the other day where this happened to another really successful agent. Almost every single time, they lose their focus on what actually worked to get the income in the first place. And they go and chase this pipe dream that they're being sold, which is passive income, sit back, do nothing, collect money, or multiple streams of income. It just makes sense, right? Just have income coming from all these different places. And more times than not, real estate agents that chase this mirage, is what I call it, they end up not only not making money, they end up jeopardizing the thing that got them the money in the first place. You know what I mean?
1000%. I think we also just need to define, like, when we say a little bit of success, we're not talking like, a month or two. We're talking like little as in like maybe even you've been doing this a couple years and you're having success year over year. But just this fact of this mirage, this hope. Here's an example I'll use to kind of illustrate this. I was talking to a buddy about tax strategy, right? And he was bringing up to me, hey, what about this strategy? What about this? What about that? And I'm like, yeah, those things are all great and they can work. They can be really helpful. And this podcast is not about tax strategy, but it's to illustrate the fact of all these strategies you're talking about are a full-time job. You just create it to actually execute everything you're talking about. It's a full-time job. So it's going to take away from earning the income that I need to earn to actually use those tax strategies. And unless you have a full-blown team or you're a certain size, anyway, I just used that illustration, just popped in my head.
Yeah. I mean, so here's what's happening. And we're going to get to why agents behave this way. That's the interesting thing. And when the audience hears this, maybe it's a dose of like truth that they need to hear to keep them focused. And we're going to get to that in just a second. But here's what I see. I see it a little bit differently than you do. I see agents that are early in their career. I'm talking about a few months. They sell a couple houses and now they want to start a team. I see it. I used to see this all the time when I had my brokerage, all the time. Agents would come to me. It's like, okay, they've been doing this for 9 months. I mean, all the time, Ben. All right, I want to start a team, Brandon. What are my first steps? What's that kind of look like? I sold 9 houses. I'm like, dude, starting a team is like starting a business. And you're still learning how to lead yourself, let alone lead other people. And they just see it. And that's the problem, one of the problems with our industry. It's like people have so much freedom that it puts them in a position to make bad business decisions. It's like before they even have any semblance of a strong foundation, they try to break that foundation for some reason, right? And it's or this is another big one. They make some commissions. They make some big commissions in selling houses, and then they try to take those commissions and try to go now be a house flipper. I just had a conversation literally last week with an agent who's like, dude, I did exactly what you told me not to do. I took the income that I was making from succeeding in selling houses and I lost it all in trying to go and flip a house. Instead of doing what you said, investing back into the business that I am actually generating the revenue, instead of doing that, I try to do the multiple streams of income and lost it. Or better yet, I'm guilty of this too. I talked about this in many, many, many different podcasts, is starting multiple different businesses. They say, okay, and I did this. I was guilty of this too, right? So no one is like, I think everybody's susceptible to this, myself included, is they try to start all these different businesses, and my income was never the lowest and stress was the highest when I had all these different businesses. When I had our real estate coaching business, I had my real estate sales business. I was the CEO of a mortgage company. I was the CEO of a title company. I mean, all these different companies all at once. And I was making the least amount of money because, Ben, I was chasing the thing that everyone was selling, which is multiple streams of income. And what everybody doesn't know, and we'll talk about why people behave this way, is those people that you see that have multiple successful companies, they don't see the 10 or 20 years of making the one thing extremely successful where they could fully exit out of that business to then start the new ventures. They only see the end result. They don't understand. It's like that iceberg picture I always talk about, right? They don't see the underlining thing of what it takes to build one successful company. They don't see that first. So I understand the allure. I understand, wow, that looks really sexy. That makes a lot of intellectual sense to have multiple companies paying me multiple streams of income. I'm not debating that. I'm debating the timing, and I'm debating the motivation for when you should start a team, when you should start another company. Because what you just brought up, which is so interesting, is why do people do this? They're trying to get out of sales.
Yes.
That's why they're doing this. I see ads all the time. You know, how to make money in real estate without selling houses. I see it all over the place. How to make money in real estate without having to be in the transactional side of the business. This is why people chase this. They're trying to do anything and everything to not be in sales. What's your take on that?
I would ask the question of, well, I said this the other day. It's how many people dress up to be a real estate agent for Halloween, right?
That's right.
To illustrate that, how many kids grow up saying, hey, when I grow up, I want to be a real estate agent. Even in college, whatever. I think we end up in this profession most of the time. Now, there's kids out there that grew up, their parents were real estate agents, is all they ever wanted to do. But most of the time, it's not their first choice. They fall into this because X didn't work out, or they couldn't get where they wanted to go with their original path. So with this being a fallback plan, I think when people get success, they're like, how quick can I get back out of this?
It's so spot on. That's exactly right. There's only a small percentage of people that are like career sales professionals that love it because of how much money they make, because they're really good at it. But we're talking about a small percentage. Everybody else is struggling daily. They struggle with the entire idea of being in sales. They won't even call themselves a salesperson. They try to hide it. They try to mask it, whatever they can to hide behind the fact that you're in sales. They don't want to be there so bad that as soon as they make a little bit of money, they try to figure out, how can I get out of this damn thing? You know what I mean? Sure. And it happens all the time. And thus the reason why these people never actually reap the reward of fully understanding what's possible in a sales profession with unlimited income. I mean, that's why they fell into it, yes. But then once they're in it, this big idea of making all this money, they never can get there because they're always looking for a way out. It's really interesting.
So, I mean, what do you tell people when they're getting a little bit of success early on? They're thinking about this. Hey, man, I want to do this. I want to do that. Like, what character traits do they need to develop, or questions they need to ask themselves to really see, like, man, where do I go from here?
Yeah. Well, the first question I would ask is, really what we're talking about is shiny object syndrome. And at the foundation, at the core of what this is, the reason why they have it is because the thing they're doing now is bringing them pain. It's difficult. So then they start to look up, they start to look around for other opportunities. They start to hedge against the thing that they don't love doing that they're doing now. That could be a lead generation thing. That could be a business thing. That could be an opportunity thing. What gets their head to start looking up at other things is because the current thing is difficult. And so my question is, well, what leads you to believe that the new, sexy, shiny thing that you're looking at, that won't just happen again? Because what people often do is they come up with very convincing arguments for why the new thing is better than the current thing. And they sell themselves out of it. And then they start the new thing. It's a cycle. It's the same cycle every single time. They start the new thing, Ben, and they get into this world where it's like uninformed optimism. You don't know what you don't know. You're just excited because you started the new thing. You started the new team. You started the new lead generation thing. You started the new company, et cetera. It's just new. Then what happens is you get into phase 2, which we call conscious incompetence. Now it's like you're in the thing, and now the newness has kind of faded. Your post on social media don't get all the luster. You got all the likes. You got all the dopamine of, hey, big news. You see it all the time. Realtors, when they switch brokerages or they start the big news, they get a bunch of dopamine. And then after that thing leaves, and now you're like in the thing, you're like, this is just as hard as the thing I was doing before. Now you know what you know. Like, dude, this is not as easy as I thought it was going to be. Let me give you like let me give you an example of this. Well, I got to be careful. There's just so much snake oil being sold in this industry that oftentimes when people buy into the snake oil, they actually buy the snake oil. The people who sold it to them after they bought it disappear. Yeah. I'll just say that. How's that? So then the person's like, dude, well, they're not going to pay my mortgage. I still have to pay my mortgage. So I got to figure this thing out, which then gets them to start looking again. They're like, well, this thing's freaking hard. And this is like this cycle that keeps happening. And I love the way Hormozi puts it. They end up, if you look behind them, they leave a wake of half-built bridges. That's what they have. And I always think about this one person in particular who's like the poster child for this. And I'm not going to name names on the podcast, but this agent is a poster child of this. And it pains me to see this person go through this time and time and time again. So much so that like this person even has moved. The shiny object syndrome has gotten so bad that they have made it that they've moved their family, their kids' school. I mean, they picked up and left because they've sold themselves on, well, if I go to this area, it must just be the area. And that's not good. I mean, there's real estate agents succeeding in every market across the country. But when this gets so bad, that's what ends up happening, is you sell yourself on a whole, you know what, screw it. Let me scrap where I live. And it's bad. I mean, it's super, super dangerous behavior.
So, Brandon, you're telling me all this stuff because you don't want me to be successful. You don't want me to have a team. You don't want me to start this new thing or be a part of this. I mean, how do I know if I'm the exception? How do I know if I'm the one that actually can make this work?
That's a great question. Okay, so let's go back to this. All right. First, we have to look at what is the motivation behind you wanting to do the new thing. All right, let's just talk about starting a team. It's probably the most common one in real estate. First, we have to be really, really honest. And most of the time, if somebody's motivation is to start a team because they don't want to sell houses, it's like, well, it's going to be tough. That your motivation to start this company where you're supposed to lead people into succeeding around selling houses is something you're looking to avoid. That's going to be hard. I mean, that'll be a tough leader for anybody to follow. It's like, and when I ask people, why do you want to start this team? When we get to really, really, really break apart the onion, I get people to admit like, yeah, I don't love selling houses. But you want to lead a people who you're going to teach how to sell houses for a living. That's what you're telling me. So that's tough. Yeah, tell me kind of what are your thoughts?
Well, the people that I see that are crushing it with a team or a bigger thing that left something else, they're the guys that are saying, man, I wish I could just go sell houses. This would be so much easier if I could just sling houses. Like, this is the thing, and I'm really doing this, and I'm growing this, and I'm committed to it. But man, I love just being a single agent selling houses. Like, those are the team leaders that I see that are just crushing it with a team, are the people that would rather be doing the activity. You're a mechanic running an auto body shop. Man, I would rather be working on the cars. I don't want to be in the office, right?
Yeah. It's a
You know what I
passion.
mean?
Yeah, it's totally like the person who's passionate about the craft. You know,
That's right.
the person who has a very, very successful team still selling houses. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's kind of what you're talking about. You're exactly right. And it's not that I think people shouldn't start other businesses or shouldn't start teams. But what ends up happening most of the time, what I'm trying to get people to avoid is a landmine, is to do the thing either too early for the wrong reason. That's really what this episode is about. There's absolutely a case to be made for someone who has succeeded at a high level and is an entrepreneur, a true entrepreneur. They understand what it means to run a business. I mean, most real estate agents, I mean, don't get mad, people in the audience, but they're bad business people. You know what I mean? They don't run a P&L every month. They don't track anything. They don't have an expense. They don't have any, like, if an investor were to look at how most realtors run their business, they would have no chance of raising capital. Like we are talking about simple business foundational mechanics. Most realtors don't have it. We know. I mean, I've coached now over 6,000 agents. It is extremely rare that I meet an agent who I start coaching from the get-go and they know their profit margin. I mean, it's almost never. So I want to make sure we stay focused. So it's not that people should not do this. That's not the point. The point is, before you do this, what is the motivation behind you wanting to do this? And if it's because you're trying to get out of sales, I don't know if that's the best reason. You know, if it's, I guess that's the point. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So, you know, as we start to look at, okay, well, we got to keep our head down and really, because anything can work. That's the thing. You know what I mean? It's like all these things that come up in your head of like you saying to yourself, okay, but this is the better path for me because of this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason. Okay, fine. If you go and do that thing, then the challenge I want to give for everybody in the audience is, what are you going to do when you have the same feelings the next time around? That's the real thing I want people to take away from this. If you're saying to yourself right now, okay, and let's just give another example. Let's just say, okay, let's just use lead generation as an example. Let's just say you're saying, okay, dude, open houses just aren't my thing. That's just not my personality. I don't want to do them. I know you guys talk about doing 15 to 20 open houses per month. Dude, I'm not going to do that thing. Like, I know myself, and I know that I'm going to be way better at doing internet lead buy. And I just know that if I have this consistent of inbound leads coming, that I'll do the call. Okay. If that's the case, then my question, if I was coaching this agent, Ben, I would say, okay, fair enough. My question, before you start the new thing, before you pull the plug on this lead generation thing and you jump over to this lead generation thing, what are you going to do when that thing gets hard and isn't producing results to keep you from jumping to the next thing? Because right now you're making the case, you're only making the upside, you're only arguing the upside of the new thing. And this is the second practical takeaway, is never do people look at the downside for starting the new thing. Never. You know what I mean? And so let me give people a really, really good exercise to go through. All right. And so let me see if this will work. Can you see my iPad right now?
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So this is a really, really powerful exercise that I have people go through before they make any like big business decision. So there's these 4 quadrants. We say, okay. So here's how this works. We say upside for the change, to do something different, right? Upside. And then we say upside to stay the same. And then same thing here, downside for change. downside for same. And Ben, I know you've seen this before, right? So like on this quadrant, you have, it's really, really powerful to go through this because what it forces you to do is to argue both sides equally. So what I have people do is like, all right, make the list. This is the easiest one for people, right? Like what is the, that's the easy one. What are all the upsides for changing your business strategy or changing brokerages or starting a team, whatever new thing is on the horizon? This one's easy. They're like, oh yeah, dude, boom, 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 boom. Look at all this positivity upside. Okay, cool. Well, this is the hardest one for people. What is the upside to staying the same? And it forces them to say, okay, well, shoot, I guess that's a good point. If I stay here, that's going to be better. If I stay doing right, et cetera, et cetera. And if they do this in all 4 quadrants, I think what they'll find is that even if they do the new thing, at least they're taking, it's not just all emotion. It's not them running away from something. It's them actually looking at this objectively like a business owner and saying, this is a smart business decision because I've gone through this exercise. What are your takes on, or what is your take on doing something like that before making a huge decision?
Yeah, it's crucial, right? And sometimes we have people that are that voice and it's hard to listen to them, right? They're always the person that is giving you why it's not going to work. And you're just like, man, it's just so frustrating. That guy never believes, he never supports me. But if you can do that for yourself, who do we believe every single time? What we tell ourselves.
That's right. That's right.
So if you can take yourself through that, expose yourself, then you can really see it from both sides. And I'll just say this: the longer or that we can delay something, the more times we can say no to something. If it's really meant to happen, it will keep pounding on the door. And the longer you wait, this isn't for everything. For most cases, though, the longer you wait, the better it gets. The better it gets, the better it gets.
Yeah. I mean, literally, that was the last point I had on my thing too, is like, yes, to your point, like give it some time. Most of the time, what I see is that it fades away. People forget about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, geez, thank God I didn't just like totally redo my entire business over some like impulse I had at one day when I was sleeping.
Yeah.
Because I almost jumped all over the thing. So just give it some time. Go through the 4 quadrants, give it some time. And if in a month or 2 months and 3 months, you still feel strong, maybe there's something there for you. Maybe there's something there. But oftentimes, if you just write down all of these business impulses that you have, like, oh, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, and you just create this graveyard of ideas, sometimes that's enough to get rid of this impulse that you don't have to act on every single good idea that you have. Because that's the thing that like the entrepreneurial's plague is they feel like they need to try and execute on every good idea they have. And so they end up executing on nothing. It's like, dude, everyone's filled with good ideas, dude. Everyone. The difference between that and let's call a Warren Buffett. I love Warren Buffett's like take on this, and we'll end with this, is he's like, everyone has great ideas. Everyone. And that's easy. The hard thing is to take the top 3 and prioritize that for a full year.
Yeah.
I mean, he's getting presented with thousands of ideas per week. And the easy thing, which is shiny object syndrome, is to try to do it all. That's a good idea. Let's do that. They're all good ideas. No one's arguing the fact that you have all these good ideas. They're all good things. What we're challenging you is to have the discipline to focus on like the few, not the many.